When you invest in stocks, you purchase shares of a business. And by buying a share, you become a part owner of that business. Now, we often don't think about investing in stocks as being a business owner because our ownership percentage of the company is so small. Let's take Apple as an example here. Any investor can go to the investor relations page of Apple and look up their financial statements and easily see that the company has roughly 16 billion shares out there, and each one costs about $150. You could invest $150, buy one share of Apple, and you would technically be a part owner of Apple. But your ownership stake would be so minuscule. For example, if you wanted to own 1% of Apple the company, you would have to buy 160 million shares, and that would cost you about $24 billion just to own 1% of that company. And that's why we typically don't think about investing in stocks as being a business owner. Now, here's the thing. Businesses have real value in the real world. They can own property, they have bank accounts, they have customers, they generate revenue, they earn profits. All of those things bring intrinsic real world value to those companies. And that's what gives our stock in the company value. We own a piece of that valuable business. There is, however, one problem. The share count of a company is not a fixed number. It can go up and down. Sometimes companies repurchase shares, and when they retire those shares, the share count drops. That makes the value of the remaining shares go up. There are fewer business owners claiming a stake to that company. Conversely, a share count can go up, and this actually happens quite a bit. Companies tend to pay employees with stock-based compensation. In other words, they issue new shares over time and give them to their employees. And when this gets out of control, it significantly dilutes the value of the shares that you own. With this context in mind, here are 3 companies that are really using stock-based compensation a lot, and it could become problematic for their shareholders over time. And I want to put these in order of significance, in my opinion, from the smallest offender to the largest offender. So first up, we have Roku. Through Roku's devices, people can make their TVs stream video content from the internet. And when they do this, Roku can generate revenue from advertising on the content that is being watched. In 2022, Roku spent about $360 million on stock-based compensation, which was about 11.5% of its revenue. That is really high. Moreover, stock-based compensation in 2022 was up 92% from 2021. Now, of the companies on this list, I consider Roku to be the least offender because if you look at the share count in 2022, it actually didn't go up. It went down. That's because there is a difference between how you account for stock-based compensation according to accounting principles and how that actually affects the share count in real time. It's a subject far too complex here. Suffice it to say that it is good that Roku's share count actually went down in 2022 despite all of that stock-based compensation. That might not always be the case going forward, and it's why Roku makes this list. Looking ahead, between options and restricted stock units, Roku looks like it'll be paying out about $1 billion in stock-based compensation over the next 3 years. Therefore, this is an ongoing issue for Roku shareholders, and it is something that could dilute them over time. Moving on to the next company on our list is Snowflake. Snowflake is a data company. It helps companies store their data, analyze their data, be able to integrate their data with that of other companies in a private way. Looking at Snowflake in 2022, it had stock-based compensation expenses of $862 million. That was over 40% of its revenue during the year and makes it even a higher percentage than that of Roku. However, unlike Roku, Snowflake's stock count, or the share count, went up. And it was up about 6% in a single year, which is massive. Looking ahead to 2023, it seems like this will actually get worse for Snowflake shareholders. Management says that it expects to add about 44 million shares during 2023. Considering it ended 2022 with an average share count of 319 million shares, adding 44 million shares is an increase of almost 14%, more than double the massive increase from 2022. Now, some people who follow Snowflake stock closely might point out that the company is authorized to repurchase $2 billion billion worth of its stock over the next 2 years. And that's true, but that is barely going to put a dent in the dilution that management is expecting. At where the stock trades right now, if management executed all 2 billion of its share repurchase authorization right now, it could repurchase about 14 million shares. That would leave 30 million shares that would be added to the share count during the coming year, even if it exercised all of its share repurchase authorization, which it is not obligated to do. But let's suppose that it did right now use all 2 billion, the share count would still go up 9% in the coming year, and that is huge, and it is something for Snowflake shareholders to be aware of. Finally, the worst offender on my list is Unity Technologies. Unity is a real-time 3D image generation software company that helps companies build games, but increasingly it helps them build digital replicas of factories, etc., and it also helps game developers monetize their games through advertising. During 2022, Unity had stock-based compensation expenses of $550 million, or about 39% of revenue. Now you might notice Snowflake's was technically higher in 2022, but Unity is the worst offender on this list because of what is coming. So technically the share count only went up 10% during 2022, but there was a big jump late in the year because the company issued shares to buy a competitor company called ironSource. So while it made a 10% jump on average for the year, it actually made a 22% jump in the share count in the final quarter of the year. And here's the crazy thing with that. Management actually spent $1.5 billion repurchasing shares. Had it not done that, the massive spike in the share count would have been even worse. But it is not even close to being done as we look ahead to 2023. Management expects to end 2023 with 493 million shares, which is a massive 59% increase year over year from its average in 2022. Now, when it comes to share repurchases, it is still authorized to repurchase $1 billion worth more of its shares, but when you're looking at a share count increase of this magnitude, it's really going to have a very minimal impact to mitigate the dilutive effect. Looking ahead to 2023, if you're a Unity shareholder like I am, your ownership stake in that company is essentially about to be cut by a third. And that can make it very, very hard for Unity stock to perform well over the next year or the next several years. What do you think of my list of companies that is diluting shareholders? Are there companies that you believe are far worse offenders? Let me know in the comments below. If you like videos like this, I hope that you'll subscribe. I'm going to be trying to produce videos like this a couple of times a week, so I hope that you'll stick around for that. We'll see you in the next one.